Welcome everybody, welcome to the channel. We're touching on a paint that I've not used for quite a while. Now you saw the thumbnail, it's the Tikkurila Intact 40. Now I tried this when it first came out, what, 5-6 years ago? I've got the tin down here. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, was it around about 2019? I tried Intact 40 in my own house. I did my bedroom in it, and do you know what? I thought it was lovely. It sprayed through HVLP QT5. It sprayed beautifully. Now there was some controversial complaints about it, which meant that things got altered. So I'll be honest, I've not used it or tried it since then. But we're coming into now, we're in 2024. I've managed to pick up a tin through Paintwell in Nottingham. Yes, I've had to buy it. Nobody's reached out to me and said, Phil, do you want to try this? I'm purchasing it myself. That's why I say people who are doing me super thanks and buy me a coffee, thank you very much, because it does go towards helping purchase things like this for doing reviews on the painting and decorating channel that I've obviously, yeah, you know, right. So we've got Intact 40 on the go. This is a white. I'm going to give it a go because Tim down at Paintwell in Nottingham says, have you tried the new, I'll put in inverted commas, new Intact 40? No, I've not. So I'm going to give it a go. I've got Dave the Door. Dave the Door previously had got, when I was just priming this out, I've used Otex Aqua as the primer, base coat, stroke, undercoat for this. There is no problem using Otex Aqua for a base coat, undercoat for this. Oh, come on, what you can use, all right? When I was priming this out, I was trying to think what Dave the Door was actually painted in. Now, I had a feel of the paint work on that door. There was little air bubbles on it, and it came back to me. The paintwork that was on there was the Fortress water-based gloss. Now, if you watch that video in the corner, Fortress water-based gloss, I wasn't too enamoured with it. It did give little bubbles on the surface, and yeah, it's ages since I actually did Dave the Door, so it actually came back to me. There's no dementia coming on here. I could remember what paint it was. So what I did the usual, just gave it a sand down, gave it a dust off, all the prep, tack rag's gone over it, and I've coated Dave the Door with Otex Aqua. Now, Otex Aqua is a water-based grip primer. Because I've gone over a gloss surface, I like to put a grip coat on it just to belt and braces. But this, and Intact, Tikkurila Intact, they do a primer for it, so there is a dedicated primer. But as I say, when I spoke to Tikkurila originally, and I told them what I was painting in my own house, they said, you know, problem going over with Otex Aqua. So that's what I've done, painted Dave the Door in Otex Aqua. Right, I'm coming to give this a go. You're going to say, what is special about Intact 40? Well, let me just read what it says on the can. Really, it's a hard wearing finish paint. It's suitable for painting I flipping hate the word trim. Indoor trim, woodwork, doors, windows, window frames, banisters and columns. Can be also used in humid areas, dries quickly and leaves a smooth and hard surface. I'm going to put it out there. This is being pitched against, correct me if I'm wrong, this is being pitched against Scuffex and the likes of, you've probably seen a previous video where on Doris we were using the Jono's Aquaguard satin. This is pitching against those hard wearing finishers that are also resilient to finger touching, you know, finger grease, saponification. If you don't know what the word saponification is, I'm going to say Google it. It's something you learn at college. I went to college. But it's a hard wearing surface. I know kitchen fitters, kitchen painters are using this as a kitchen paint. It's a nice paint, I'm going to tell you that. When I sprayed it before, it's a nice paint. Right, just a bit of blurb on the back. It's dry, touch dry within an hour, 4 hours recoat time, and if I'm remembering rightly, it's about 7 days curing, so properly hardening off, it's actually 7 days. Let me just see if I can see it. Yes, approximately 7 days. So it's not one of these things that you want to be scratch testing within the first half a day, 2 days. Give it the proper curing time. Clearly it's water based, so we're going to wash out with water. Now, remembering back, I know it's sprayed lovely with the HVLP. You have to thin it slightly for HVLP spraying, but it's sprayed a dream. You can use it for, you can use it with a brush, you can use it with a roller, and if you are doing woodwork and stuff, a mini roller, and I've got some mini rollers down there, got microfiber, the small ones, you can use mini rollers with it as well. So let's just crack on. I've got the paint already out. I've already done, I'm telling everybody, I'm doing sample boards now. Sample board has got the Otex Aqua on it, and I've also started putting a coat of the Intact 40. It's pitching as a semi-gloss finish, right? So in effect, a decent satin. I like the 40 finishes with Tikkurila. Everall Aqua 40 is lovely. Oh, button in. Got to sniff the bristle. That has got a proper ammonia smell, which means to me it's a proper acrylic. Oh, it stinks. I like the Everall Aqua 40s. Helmi 30 is quite a nice finish. I prefer the more shinier sheen levels of satin. When we've tested videos on, I'm just looking what my samples are down here, the Scuffex semi-gloss, Aurora semi-gloss and things like that. They're classing themselves, even this says semi-gloss on the tin, but they're actually a decent satin finish. I like that. Right, we're all good to go. I'm going to start with the mouldings first, coming in. Initial thought on this, it feels, it feels like a proper paint. It feels like you're putting something on. Now you can see there's a bit of a yellowy tinge to, there's a bit of a tinge to that Otex Aqua, which is good. We can see where we're going. Now I'm going to try and work pretty quick with this because we're on quite a big panel door on Dave. Get it on, crow's nest it as quick as you can and then lay it off. We don't want it going off on us. Tips of the bristles for laying off. Now this is just the first coat. I have to say, application wise, feels really nice. This is one of these paints that it feels like you're putting a paint on. It feels quite thick, but it's still got what feels like a workable surface. Just don't let it go off on you too quickly. That's not bad. I'll just take off the fatty edge around the side if there's anything creeping. Not too much. You can see what I've done. Right, let me finish off, crack on with this door. I'll come back when I've got that first coat on. I'll give you my first thoughts, how it applied, and then what I'll do, I'll come back tomorrow. I'll give it a second coat and then review it with a second coat on, and we'll feel what it's like. But so far, that feels quite nicely to apply. It doesn't feel like a thin paint, like the Scuffex, but it also doesn't feel thicker like the Jono's Aquaguard. So let me crack on. What I'll do, I'll see you in about 10-15 minutes, then I'll see you again tomorrow. Right, 10 minutes, not even that, to coat that door up. I'm going to say to you, I give my honest opinion on what something feels like when I'm doing it straight off. That's why I come back to you after I've coated it up. Now, that's quite a big panel to coat up, and if you're playing about with it, i.e. traditional gloss, traditional oil-based paints, you'd be crow's nesting it, laying it off horizontal, and then laying it off with the tips of the bristles with the main length. I'm going to say to you, after I did that panel, I soon realised you've got to get the paint on and lay it off. So dropping down to the lower panels down there, what I actually did, I've lost camera, what I actually did was cut the mouldings in as quick as I could and literally put the paint on, bit of a crow's nest fashion, so you're not overloading the paint in one area, you're actually getting it spread out, and literally brushed it out and got it laid off as quickly as I can. I then went up to the top, brought the top rail down, brought the sides, brought my middle rail and the middle mullion rail, and then brought the sides down with it to keep that wet edge going. You have to work quick with it. Now, that is drying off already in the space of 10-15 minutes. I've got a bit of warmth in here. I would say to you, be mindful of how much you put on. Don't put less on, because you'll struggle applying it, if that can make sense. You need to put enough on to actually feel like you're putting paint on. But so far, I'm not seeing any creeps, I'm not seeing any runs. It'll be interesting to know how it dries off, i.e. where I've blended the edges in. Now, if you remember a few weeks ago, or whenever it was done, I was doing the AquaGuard. I found it was drying off a little bit quick after that first coat. Now, this didn't feel as bad as that. This actually feels like I'm putting on a paint I can control. Opacity over that bit of a creamy Otex Aqua, it looks quite good. So I'm not too worried about the opacity at the moment. We'll see what it's like tomorrow. It should cover fine, shouldn't it, for 2 coats? But I'm going to say so far so good. I'm going to be interested to see what the sheen, the semi-gloss level's like. But have we got a contender that's going to go up against Scuffex and AquaGuard? Probably we have. So, right, see you tomorrow. True to my word, I am back with you the next day. I let that properly dry off from yesterday afternoon, and I've come back today to do it. Whoa, what are we going to say, 18 hours later? You know, I'm doing these sample boards, told you about that. We did sample, it's just laminate flooring, gave it a light key down with a bit of a pad, Merca Gold pad. We did the Otex Aqua. I'm not scratch testing these yet. I want them all properly curing. We got the Otex Aqua there. We got 1 coat of the semi-gloss Intact 40. They class it as semi-gloss, but it's a 40% sheen level. And then I've got a second coat on there. And if I can get that in close, I don't know whether you'll see it too well on that. We'll drop the ring light out of the way. Not whether you can see a level of sheen. Yeah, let's get the lights from above us. Sheen level there with 2 coats. What a difference 2 coats makes over 1 coat. Just saying. Just saying. Bring the ring light back so you can see me a lot better. But let's put that down. We'll come on to these in another video at a later date. That first coat that went on, I did find it pulled slightly. It was one of those paints that you had to get on really quickly, didn't you? Because it was wanting to soak into that dry finish of what the Otex Aqua was. Now, coming back today, earlier on today when I coated it all up, do you know what? It went on a dream. Going over itself, it went on fantastically. I could actually cut the moulding in. I could then bring a bigger section of the panel down, literally applying it with enough. Don't overload it because you don't want it running, but putting enough on. I could quickly, with the tips of the bristles, just lay it off after the crow's nest pattern, you know. I could lay it off horizontally and then literally do that section, bringing it down, laying it back off into itself, and there's no problem there. I am looking across it. I'm not seeing any blending where it's actually starting to pull stroke flash because it was going off on me. That is, I can't ask for a nicer finish on that panel there. Now, coming around the sides, one of the telltale signs of something drying off on you is if you don't get it blending out on these edges between, I'm looking at the camera, the moulding, and then where you've got your, particularly your stiles, you've got your rail there where you've got your handle, your latch rail. That is actually a cracking. It's all flowed out. I'm not saying I can't fault it, but I just think what a lovely, decent, sheen levelled satin finish that is. Now, this is sold to us for a furniture paint. You can use it on your woodwork, you can use it on your trim, use it on your doors, anything interior that you're wanting a hard finish to your woodwork. You look at this. Is this a replacement for Scuffex? Quite possibly. You feel like you put in a bit more it feels a thicker consistency of paint, whereas I always say the Scuffex is really nice because it goes on quite thinly. It's an easy paint to apply. This wasn't a hard paint to apply, but it did feel like you actually were putting something on the surface that felt meaty. Let's call it meaty. I think anybody who's not tried this before or might have tried it like I did, what, 5-6 years ago when it first came out, will be pleasantly surprised how it's probably changed for the better. I didn't really have any issues with it before. I sprayed with it, I didn't brush it, but this has brushed. It goes on lovely with a brush. I'd expect it to have no problems using a microfiber roller, and I'm just checking over my shoulder, we've got microfiber rollers there. And I would also say, if you have got what I've got down here, I've got HVLPs, QT5, I've also got the Graco Ultra Quick Shot, which is a cracking bit of cordless airless spray kit. I think if you've got anything like that and you were doing somebody's house and you wanted a hard finish, that price wise, I'm going to poke there and just say what a 1 litre 2.7 2.5 litre can cost you for that, because currently the price, I paid a bit cheaper for that because it was a damaged tin, but I'll put prices just there. For a price of the paint, it's not bad, is it? I always say there's not much in it when you start looking at quality paints, and if you're only looking at 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds difference on paints to get the paint that you actually want, it's not going to break the bank if you're doing a room. I understand when people are going to be saying to me, Phil, if you're doing a big contract and you've got gallons of paint, but if you're using paints like that, I would expect to be getting a better discount from your supplier if you are having quantities that are so vast you want to get a keen price on it. So that's for your contractors, that's for your big painting companies and stuff like that. But as a small painter, as an individual that might be a DIYer, amateur wanting to paint, if it's going to cost you an extra 10, 15, 20 quid for a tin of paint and you're only wanting 1 tin of paint, just bite the bullet and buy it, because this is a lovely drop of stuff. On that note, please watch the videos at the end. Any questions, just ask. And a big thank you to people that are doing the super thanks and also buy me a coffee. It's much appreciated. Going forward, if you want to give me some comments below on paints that you'd like me to try, I will try and get my hands on those paints to try out on Doris or Dave. Doris is there, Dave's here. I'm Phil Beckwith. Nice to have you on board. I'll see you on the next ones.